Hi, chaplains. I'm going to talk about a problem that I've noticed occurring as people become chaplains. We go to training, we get trained, we submit our paperwork for licensure or ordination, we get it back, and then we say, now what? How do we get involved? How do we become a contributing member of the chaplain community? Well, that happened to me. Over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to explain to you how I work through that process, and maybe you'll find some wisdom there that either you can use or pass on to other people. My name is Vince Stopp, and about 10 years ago in the marketplace where I was working, I was finding myself often in the middle of conversations, issues, challenges, where people were having personal problems either at work or in their own life. Maybe there was a death or maybe suicide, or people were concerned about other issues, and I would be having these conversations and giving out support and rendering support the best I knew how. And I began to think, am I even doing this right? Am I on the right track? And so I began searching for a training program that would kind of fortify what I was actually doing in the workplace. And I found the IFOC. So I looked at the 40-hour program. I thought, actually, this is a pretty good program. And so I signed up for the nearest one, which was a few states away in Arizona, and attended training. And it was in that training that I began to really see for the first time how many opportunities there are for chaplains, and how really God impressed upon me that every Christian should be engaged in some kind of chaplaincy work. I saw hospitals, hospice, police departments, fire departments, schools, children's programs, homeless programs, disaster response organizations, adult senior living communities. All of these places all could use chaplains at some point. And so as I went through that training, it got really impressed on me, for me, what was it going to mean for me, and how was I going to get engaged? So I finished the course. I flew back to California and filled out the application and got my pastoral recommendation and submitted all my paperwork, and then I received my ordination information. But then I had that same problem. And now what? What do I do? How do I get engaged? I had a background in emergency response and taught emergency response for 25 years and worked as a Red Cross disaster worker, and had been an emergency medical technician, and had been involved in teaching first aid and CPR for about 30 years. So I thought maybe first responders, that would be a place for me to fit in. So I reached out to my local police department in the town in which I live, and although they had a chaplaincy program, they didn't need any more chaplains at that time. So I went to the big city next to our small town and talked to their police chaplain program, and they, to my elation, said, yeah, sure, we could use some more chaplains. And so they brought me on, and I've been actually working as a community chaplain for that police department ever since. But that was a good fit for me. I had that background, I had that experience, and now I begin to wonder over the years, how do other people get plugged in? Well, years ago I went through a discipleship program at our church based on the work of Saddleback Church, and it was called SHAPE, and it's a letter, it's an acronym, SHAPE, and each one has a letter that means something. So S is your spiritual gifts. What are the spiritual gifts that God gave to you? H is your heart. What are your passions? What really gets you going? A are your abilities or your aptitudes. What are you good at? And P is what is P? I don't know what P is. Oh, your personality. P is really your personality, and how do you like to engage and interact with other people? And then E is your experiences, both your good experiences and maybe your not so good experience. And so when you look at all those pieces and you begin putting them together, it begins to tell a story about who you are and how you can best serve God in the capacity as a chaplain. If you don't like blood, then I wouldn't recommend being an emergency responder and supporting first responders unless you're going to do it in the office when they're coming back and you're doing critical incident stress management or a debriefing. If you don't like crisis and trauma, then maybe there's other opportunities. If you don't like death, or maybe shy away from some of the hospice stuff. But we're all wired differently, and God's given us these passions and He's given us these spiritual gifts. And so if you've never taken a spiritual gifts assessment, you can go online, just Google spiritual gift assessment, and you can find one, take it, and begin to see how you're wired, the gifts that God's given you. Look back over your history and look at your experiences and what you've done, what you did well and what you didn't do so well, and things that happened to you, and really looking at how could you use those to serve others and to provide care and comfort to other people when they need it the most, because really no one should be alone during these times of crises. So based on my shape and my spiritual gifts and my passions and those things, it was a good fit for me to at that time be a community chaplain, responding to the community when they had an urgent crisis and supporting law enforcement. And now as I move further along in my chaplaincy career, other passions of mine and other experiences and other education has led me into leadership development. So the current role that I have with the IFOC allows me to partner with you and to really connect chaplains and support chaplains. Our mission really is to train, license, connect, and support chaplains. And so I'm wired to do that. And so for me that fits. But I'm asking you, what are your spiritual gifts? What's your passion? What's your heart say you should go do? When you look around your community, what is it that you think you could actually do? And what abilities do you have? What things can you do? And we look at people and your personality. How do you live? Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? Can you gear up? Can you be a leader from the front? Should you maybe be a leader from the back? Could you be a support person? And then those experiences. That we all have this really broad range of experiences, that things have happened in our own lives that God could actually use. One of the chaplains in Washington State, she became a chaplain, and during COVID, the height of COVID, she was a bus driver. And she used her chaplaincy training, and her ministry was driving a bus and being a warm, welcome face to people during COVID. Remember, we didn't see a lot of people outside during those times. When they got on the bus, she greeted them with a smile and a kind hello, and she looked them in the eyes, and she was present. She saw them through the eyes of Jesus, and they got on the bus, and she began to build relationships with some of these passengers. And having the bus ride was critical for them, because they were also essential workers, much like the bus driver was too. And so she got them to and from, and that was her ministry. She realized that she was called to serve right where she is. So what are you going to serve? How are you going to serve? Talk to other chaplains. Talk to people at your church. Maybe your pastor could use you as a chaplain to come up alongside them and support the congregation. Maybe there's somebody in your community that your heart breaks for. You think, you know what? They need somebody. Maybe that someone's you.